sometimes few years for it to go to another country. Take all the industries of the past, in manufacturing, retail, automotive. There are IPs around it. There is access to those products. There are local skills and talents that have to be built for that product. But IT, which I think is the backbone of GCCs, the other backbone being talent. So first on IT is one where all capabilities in minutes of their being launched, they're available in India to the smallest towns, where a 20-year-old student can start implementing them. Take GenAI. GenAI's adoption is rapid. If we take all technological innovations of the last 25 years, mobile phones took a few years. Email setting up took a few years. WhatsApp took at least a year maybe. Whereas people using ChatGPT, there are millions of people who've used ChatGPT or other models in a few months. So GCCs will continue to flourish, in my opinion, because technology is accessible for every person who is capable of providing that capability to the GCC organization. And you don't need to be physically present in the metros. You can be in any place, any small town, as long as you can provide that service supported by technology. This will continue to grow.
Thank you, Anil. Venkat, as per you, what are the strategies the GCC can adopt to sort of maintain the cost, have a sustainable cost model? As you are seeing, the operational costs are really rising. What strategies do you think, with your experience in Kone, the CEOs and the CXOs of GCC can sort of go for to manage the cost?
So when this industry started, I go back to the BPO, then the shared services, GBS, GCC, the way it has evolved. So everybody was focusing on cost arbitrage, which is still there, but that's no more a critical factor. What is needed is what is the value that the unit or the service is bringing. So earlier we were talking of, people were proud saying that I have got 500 FTs, I've got 700 FTs. Today, that is not a criteria at all. The criteria is what is the value that we are delivering? What are we going beyond what we should do? Second thing is the customer experience. And to maintain the cost is to drive it lean. So there's no more adding of headcounts. So when we transition a process, while initially it could be like we transition on a one-to-one headcount basis, but over a period of time, say depending on the complexity of the process, 6 months to a year, we definitely reduce it, and then we see that we take on more scope work. So the ask today is, what can you do more with less? That's what the ask is. And people who are able to actually stand that, deliver to it without compromising on the quality or without compromising on the value, I think they are here to stay. So the best way to manage the cost is to innovate, continuously innovate, make it lean operations, and see what is it you can do from a customer perspective. At the end of the day, the customer experience stands out. That is what is the key. So these, I would say, are some of the things, and there's a lot behind this. While this could be simple statements, but there's a lot that can happen behind this.
Thanks, Venkat. Anil, you know how AI or the Anthropic has created havoc, at least in the valuation front for all the big IT companies in India and for IBM and all. What is, as per you, the impact of AI on GCCs, good or bad? What is your take on that?
GCCs forever have been, in the past at least, have been seen as keep the lights on businesses. They run 24/7, support your back office operations, give you with tier 1, tier 2 support for tickets, and so on, which was the story of the past. But now we are seeing GCCs
Sorry to cut you, but to just make the discussion interesting, do you think it will have a positive impact or a negative impact? If you give me in one word, and then I'll allow you to continue.
Yeah, it's a tremendously positive impact.
What about you?
Positive.
A round of voting from the audience. Is AI going to have a positive impact on GCC headcount or a negative impact? People who feel it will have a negative impact on, or let's say going to impact GCC workforce and a lot of GCC so-called hiring is going to stop, please raise your hand. I think everyone feels that AI is not going to impact the GCC hiring in spite of all the media hype you see, in spite of what is happening to the IT companies. So I think it is, I think all of us believe that, the AI is not going to impact the hiring of GCC. That's good. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, so the point I was making was they were seen as a cost center in the past, a limited budget through which you keep the lights on. But increasingly, we are seeing GCCs evolve into profit centers of their own. They have their own P&L. They have autonomy in taking decisions, making IT budgets, trying out new products, and showcasing it for the world. Now, the question about AI is, when we use tools, because of the productivity being increased, are we needing fewer people? The answer is yes, immediately, for the work that we are already doing. Every organization is looking at 20-30% productivity improvements, and which means that staff will be fewer in 1 year. But what AI is also doing is it is giving you new ways to extract money, to extract business from others. I'll give you an example. The world runs on economy, means money moving from one hand to another. So the more we are able to attract this money by providing our services and products, and help customers make the decision to spend, economy will grow. All of our businesses will do well. And AI is helping there. It is providing insights to consumers on what their buying decisions can be. And that is an area that will continue to evolve. And this we are seeing already. Like if you see many of the junk emails or phones that you get today, all of them are AI enabled. You call a hospital asking for an appointment, there is an AI system on the other side. So earlier, what would have taken 1 or 2 days for you to get an appointment, now you can do it on the way to that particular place. So it will create new opportunities, new jobs. It will create better economic opportunities for everyone.
Thanks, Anil. Venkat, now you are from Chennai and you have seen the success story of manufacturing or engineering GCCs, small SMEs, 200 to 300 people, 400 people in Coimbatore. One clear example of SME, very niche. Do you think we have a very good story yet in India where we can believe that GCCs can very successfully open and scale in tier 2 cities, tier 2, 3 cities?
The answer is yes, but the way we do it is important. Many of the organizations want to go into the tier 2, tier 3 cities. They're actually following a hub and spoke model. So when you talk about the hub and spoke model, so maybe they're in Chennai or Hyderabad, but then they've got a smaller outfit in, say, Warangal or Coimbatore or wherever. That really works because what is important is the business continuity. At the end of the day, everybody looks for business continuity. Second thing is, it also serves as a second center. So the tier 2, tier 3 cities are here to stay, but can we put like 500,000 numbers over there? We can't. We can possibly go up, depending upon which location you can go to 150, 200 and all. I was always associated with the largest impact sourcing company, Rural Shores. So we had about 20 odd centers and everything was in the region of 150, 175 like that. In some cases, even less than 100, I would say. But the quality that we got from there, the productivity that we got from there was amazing. The attrition was low and the output was excellent. So people are taking advantage of that. So I know of several large companies who win contracts and then they outsource it, subsource it to these companies which are in tier 2, tier 3 cities. So that way they are safe, they've got a larger outfit in the city, but at the same time a good portion of the work is being done over there. So that I think is here to stay, but it will take quite a few years for them to go to really large numbers. But the model is working.
Very interestingly, when I go to a lot of panel as a moderator or a speaker, I think that is very consistent that people cannot scale in tier 2, right? At max 200-300 people. But I think if a case study needs to be done, if I understand, Zoho has a huge workforce in the tier 2.
Exactly.
I think what is the moral of the story is that we have to really study how Zoho did it, because all the companies struggle to scale in the tier 2 cities more than 200, 300, and here is Zoho who has completely sort of downsized their Chennai operation and shifted so many people in the rural and where that the promoter is staying.
If you see the way Zoho and few others have done it, they have done it over a period of time. It is not that in day one you go and put like a 300-seater over
Agree.
there. That is
Agree.
not going to work. You start with a 25, 50-seater thing, understand the local nuances, and then do. And ideally, the location strategy is very, very important. You just can't go to a tier 2, tier 3 city because, today there are a lot of engineering colleges everywhere. Just because somebody promises you that you'll get a stream of pool of people over there, you can't go over there. What you need to see is that, the culture fitment is important. The commitment to work is important. Connectivity, of course, goes without saying. So these are some of the factors which you need to consider. But yes, it will be there. It will be there in small numbers. And for it to grow, maybe another 5, 10 years, I would say.